Okay, today's lesson is 3.6. And this is multi-step equations, part 2. We're on page 24. Multi-step equations, part 2. Multi-step equations, part 2. So we're doing, again, things that we have already been doing. And we're just kind of taking it up a notch. But you guys are okay doing that. You actually are doing pretty well. I'm proud of the work that I'm seeing. When we did our quizzes yesterday, most of your mistakes were just silly mistakes. Not that you didn't understand the process. You forgot a negative sign. You added when you should have subtracted. Little things, okay? So if we look at these steps, simplify each side of the equation. That just means distribute or combine like terms on each side of the equation first. That's not really new to us. Use inverse operations to move the variables to one side of the equation. This is now new. So number 2 says you're going to have a variable on each side of the equation. We haven't had that yet. So that's okay. That's why we're doing this today. And then you're going to solve it once you get everything together. So what does this look like? Let's do an example. Let's dive right in. If you look at example number 1, do you guys notice that you have a variable r on both sides of the equation? Do you guys see that? Yeah. Okay, I think the best way to start this is to draw your line of the two sides of the equation. Okay, we have a left side and we have a right side of the equation. In algebra, we have to get our variables on one side of that line and all of our constants, remember a constant doesn't have a variable, on the other side of that line. So if I'm looking at example number 1, let's just talk about where are our variables. What are our variables here? Okay, I have negative r, and what else do I have? Negative 4r, right? Those are my variables, and they're right now on different sides of the equation. Okay, we're just talking about this. We're not solving anything.
Wait, you said negative r.
Yes, do you see that negative r? It says 5 minus r and negative r. It's the same thing. Dontre asked that question yesterday. Think of it as the same thing.
They both look the same now.
Yes, that subtraction is the same. Yes. A negative sign, if you're in the whole $50, that means you have subtracted $50 from your bank account, right? So for all intents and purposes, it is the same. What about our constants? What are our two constants here?
2 and
5. 5 is a constant and 2 is a constant. You guys see that? Okay, so it's important that we know which ones are which. So when we do a math problem, we have to put all of our variables on one side and all of our constants on the other side. So what I'd like for us to start doing is let's always move our variables first. Let's always move our variables first. So I'm always going to put variables on this side. I think it's helpful to move variables over to the left side because that's usually where we're used to seeing them. But you can do either. So if I want to move this negative 4r over to the other side, anybody have any thoughts about how I might be able to move that entire negative 4r over? I don't distribute. There's nothing to distribute, but it's being subtracted, and we know the opposite of subtraction is what? Addition. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add 4r to this side, and the reason for doing that is it's going to cancel out on this side, so that only 2 is over there. And when I add 4r over to the the left side, I need to put it underneath the r, right? Don't put it underneath the 5. Put it underneath the r because those are like terms. So now I have that 5 there. That didn't change. I have a negative 1, right? Negative 1r plus 4r. Opposite signs, what do? Subtract. So negative 1 plus 4 really is what? Not negative 3. Positive 3r. I have my equal sign. 2. I know this is brand new to you, so please just keep writing. So I have 5 plus 3r equals 2. Now this actually looks like a pretty simple problem that we've seen in the past, right? If I want to get 3r by itself, I need to move what over to the right side? We need to move the 5 over. And 5 is positive, right? Even though we don't see it, we know that it's positive. So if that's a positive 5, how am I going to move positive 5 over? subtract 5. And please make sure you're putting your minus 5 there. And that cancels. So I have 3r. 2 minus 5, those are opposite signs. And what do we do with opposite signs? Subtract. So we have 5 minus 2 is really negative 3. And now we know how to do this for sure. All right, how do I get that r by itself? What do I need to do? Divide, right? That means when they're smashed, that means multiplication, right? So I'm going to divide by 3. A negative divided by a positive is a, thank you, negative 1. Many of you missed that on your quiz. Whew. Felt like a lot. Okay? So, but it's still, it's like the same process over and over and over again. All right, so number 2, draw your line down your sides of the equation. We're on page 24. On number 2, draw your line down. We need to move the variables to the same side. So if it helps you to locate where your variables are, go ahead and do that. Maybe that's helpful. Those are the 2 things I need to be able to get on the same side. So I have a positive 6v and a negative v.
So
And go ahead, Taylor.
do we do the 1?
What do you mean?
The v in front of the v?
Okay, there is a 1 in front of that v. You can put that there.
So do we divide it?
Not yet. If I want to move that entire negative 1v over to the left side, what do I need to do to be able to move it all the way over to the other side? Add it, right? It's being subtracted, so I need to add it. So I'm going to add v or add 1v, whichever you would like to do. And add v. Make sure you put it underneath the v's. I still have that negative 1 out there. Now I have positive 6v plus 1v is what? Positive 7v. On the right side, I've canceled out my v. So what's the only thing left on the right side? That's 6. Anybody have questions with that step? And now this is a 2-step equation that we've been doing for the last week. How do we get 7v by itself? What do we need to move first? That negative 1. How are we going to move that negative 1 over? Add it. Okay. Don't subtract it because it's already negative, right? Okay, ask.
How do you get 7v right there?
Because remember, you have to add. It's already being subtracted. We're going to have to do the inverse always. So no, you don't have to erase the thing. Just make it a plus, and then change that to be 7. Does that make sense? Okay. So I have 7v equals what? 7. You guys are pros at this now. What do we do? Divide by 7. V is 1. Questions about number 2? It's not so bad, is it? I don't know if you're saying that just because. Okay, let's look at number 3. Okay, let's go ahead and move our, well, we can draw our line, right? So we know we need to, where are our variables? We have a 5n and a 6n. And if we want to move them to the left side, what do we need to do? Okay, minus what? I don't have a 4x. Oh, you're on number 4, Terry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Number 3. We have our n's, right? Those are the 2 things we need to combine. So we can move 6n over to the left side, but 6 is actually positive, right? How are we going to move it over? Subtract 6n? Okay. So I have a negative 4. What is 5 minus 6, though? A positive 5 minus 6. They're really opposite signs. What'd you say? Negative 1. Okay. So this leaves me with a negative 1n, or you can just put negative n. Equals 1. Are we okay so far? All right, now again, we're solving for negative 1n, or we're solving for n. So what do I move first? We got to move that negative 4 off there. So how do we move negative 4 off? Good. Add 4. So I have negative 1n equals 5. Is n by itself? Okay. So how do we move that negative 1 off of there? Good. Divide. Now, again, many of you missed this multiple times on your quiz. What is a positive divided by a negative? Negative. Any questions there? Why don't you try number 4 on your own, please? Try number 4, just like we have been. Draw your equation equal sign. Yep, number 4 you're working on. Guys, I'm so excited. I'm geeking out. You guys are doing so great. Mom, all I can see is a table. You're so boring. Okay, keep going. Put your equal sign. Don't forget your equal sign. Yep. Okay. So we know we're subtracting 4x. We know to get x by itself, we need to add what? Oh, just kidding. 2x, is that better? Yes. Okay. And then we know we need to add 7 to both sides. And 2x equals 6. Divide by 2. Raise your hand if this is what you got or you're quickly on your way to get there. X equals 3. Awesome job, guys. Does anyone have any questions on that? Yes? JK? All right, I'd like you to try number 6, please. Number 6. Skip number 5. I'd like you to try number 6, please. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, what are we starting with? Chelsea, what are you starting with here? What's your first step? Okay, what are you doing with that y? Okay, so we're going to add y to both sides. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Add y to both sides. So I have negative 11 minus 2y, right? Because opposite signs we subtract. All right, Sierra, what did you do next? Bless you. Add 11, okay? Negative 2y equals 12. Ashley, what did you do next?
I don't know, I didn't do it. I was working on 4.
Okay, what are we at?
Yeah, divide.
Divide by what?
The 2.
By just 2?
Negative 2.
Thank you. Positive divided by a negative is? Negative 6. Raise your hand if you had negative 6. I said 3 times number 6. I said skip number 5. Silly. Okay. Questions on number 6? Mackenzie? Okay, did you add 3y over that side?
No.
What did you do?
I put the -1 and the -1, and then I still got.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes. So at first you did.
Because I wanted to get the y.
Yep, that's fine to do it that way. Just make sure you're doing the same thing each time. Okay. Okay. What is the problem, or maybe the hang up with number 7? We got some parentheses, which just means we need to do what first? Distribute, right? That's all we're doing. We just have to distribute first, and then we're going to start solving. So let's look at number 7. Let's look at number 7. Draw your line if you want to. Notice they gave you a little bit bigger box to be able to work some things through. So if we distribute our -6 first, we get -24. And a -6 times a -2 is what? +12 in. So now, I just had an extra step, but now this line that I just wrote down is the exact same that I have just been solving on the previous page. Right? But let's look at something real quick. I want to see what happens when we do this. Let's talk really quickly. I want you to stop writing. If I move the 12 over here, I have to subtract 12, right? And if I take 12 from 5, I'm ending with a negative, right? Like a -7. Would you guys agree with that? And, negatives are whatever. But what if I moved the 5 over here? If I subtract 5 from 12, what do I get? A +7. Okay? So I actually, folks, I can move my variables to this side if I wanted to, and move my constants to this side. Or I can move my variables to this side and my constants over here. The last 5 problems that we just did, we always moved our variables over here. But you don't have to do it that way. You can move your variables over to this side. Whatever you do, you just have to stay consistent. So let's try this one. Let's move the 5 in over to the other side. Let's put our variable on the right side. Because, folks, we have solved problems like this. We've solved these, right, where the x is on the other side. Right? So it's still solving the problem. So let's take a minute and let's move the 5 in over to the right side. So if 5 in is positive, how do I move it over? We're still subtracting, right? So same process. -5 in, -5 in. We get 11 equals -24. And 12 minus 5 is a +7n. And we can still solve this. If I want to get n by itself, we need to move off that -24, right? And how am I going to get -24 over to this side? Add 24, just like we have been doing. Nothing about the rules has changed. So I am adding 24 over to the other side. I gotcha. Because remember, we're trying to get the variable by itself. 11 and 24 is? Okay, we can still keep going. How do we get n by itself here? Divide by 7, right? N equals what?
5.
Do you have n equals 5 at the end? Okay. So did you bring 12 over here first?
No, look. I did that, but look, I'm minus 11.
Yeah. So what you did is you put your variables on that side. Yeah. So this is also another way to do it. So the way you did it is fine. You brought your 12 over this way, right? And we took the 5 over to that side. You flipped yours, which is totally okay. That was what I was explaining, is you can do it either way. Okay? So the way you did it is fine. You still got n to be 5. So what Davon just said is, hey, in the beginning, he took his 12 over here and he put his 11 over here, and he still got the same answer as us. All right? So you can do it either way. I think sometimes, depending on your level of confidence, maybe, if you're like, Miriam, I just need you to tell me one way to always do these, then always move your variables to the same side. If you're a person that doesn't like to deal with negatives, and you're always going to move your variable to where it's not going to be negative, right? Because if we had moved 12 over here, we would have had a negative 7, right? Which is fine. But if you're like, man, I want my variables to always be positive, then you can choose. But if you're a person that's like, Miriam, I just need to get this one way down, okay? Always move your variables to the left side and put your numbers and constants on the right side, okay? If that's kind of where your brain is right now. You get to choose. You're going to get the same answer either way, okay? So let's look at number 8. First thing we need to do is what? Okay, distribute. I see some of you already starting that. (5a minus 10 equals 2 plus 3a). Okay, so again, our variables are 3a and 5a. We're gonna move them. Which one do we want to move? The 3a or the 5a? You get to decide.
5.
You want to move the 5a? That's going to give us a negative 2a. I would move the 3 because that's going to keep you positive. But again, if you want to do the opposite way of us and see if you get the same answer, great. Let's subtract 3a. But again, if you want to move the 5, that's fine. You just check and see if you get the same answer as us. 2a minus 10 equals 2. You should be able to take it from here. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. (2a equals 12). Divide by 2, divide by 2, and I get a to be 6. A is 6. Anybody do it the opposite way that needs some help figuring out if you didn't get the right answer? You did the opposite way and got the right answer? Cool. This is division. 12 divided by 2. So you're going to look in your cube. Where do you find the 12? That's 6. I'm sorry. All right, try number 9 on your own, please. Pause the video and try number 9. Okay, what are you going to move first? If we're going to get our P's.
When you subtract 5.
Okay, so do it. 5 what?
Negative
5p. Make sure you put your p with it. Okay, now keep going. Okay, but erase that because that doesn't have a p with it, right? That negative 25. Okay. Now what? You're going to need to move. We're still getting p by itself, so you're going to need to move this 25 off, right? Careful. So we have 25p plus 25 equals negative 25. Okay, if you add 25 over here, you're putting 50 on that side. Okay, we're trying to get p by itself, right? So we need to get rid of this 25. So to get rid of that 25, we have to do what? Subtract it. When they are both the same signs, what are we actually doing with them? Adding. So negative 25 and negative 25 is not 0. Negative 25 and negative 25 is negative 50. Right? Negative and negative we really add together. Divide by 25. Davon says -2. Does anyone else agree with him?
I agree.
I agree as well. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. Does anyone have any questions on number 9? Yes. So adding, these are the same signs, right? A negative and a negative. So we're really adding them together. Okay. All right. Let's try number 12. Let's try number 12. Kiesia, we're on number 12. That means skip 10 and 11. Davon, can you make sure she's on number 12, please? Number 12. Now, on number 12, we have two types of distribution. On the right side, there's that -1, right? So you're distributing a -1, which means it's just going to change the signs, okay? Number 12. Number 12. You can work on that one, but we're working on number 12.
That's a -1?
Yep, there's a -1 in front, so make sure you distribute a -1. Whoa. Big man.
He's like silly woman. She can't even track her.
Look at him.
He said cute.
Okay, so make sure you're distributing. I'll start writing on the board if you need a little bit of guidance, but keep going. This should be your first equation after distributing. English is good. It's okay. 45 minus 9 is 36C. Okay. So we're at -9 plus 36C equals -9. All right, so now we're going to add this 9 over so we can get our variable by itself. So I have 36C equals 0. Did we do something wrong? Did we do something wrong, Keith? Is this what you have?
Yeah.
We did something wrong?
No.
Okay. What do we do next, Keith?
Divide both sides.
By 36?
Yeah.
Okay, we're still following the same process, even though we have a 0 there. That's okay. 0 divided by anything is what? 0. So C equals 0. What this means is the value of our variable is 0. It doesn't mean our whole problem is 0. It just means the number that you're plugging in for is going to be 0. Okay? Anyone have any questions about this? Okay, on your hand, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being like, what the heck is this? To 5 be like, I'm ready for algebra. Okay? I'd like you to hold up your hand. You can hold it here if you don't want people to see. I want you to tell me what you're feeling about this. 1 is like, what the heck is happening? 5 is, I'm ready for algebra. Let me see. You can hold it here if you're not feeling so good. Give me your numbers. Give me your numbers. 3, 4, 2, 5. Good. Okay. All right, let's work on our homework.
Did they all?